Welcome to Down the Right Field Line. This week we're going to be covering the Marlins rotation. How do we think they're going to stack up? Are they going to be able to compete against the National League East? We're also going to be talking about Braun and his appeal. What went down? How exactly did he win his appeal? All that and more next. Welcome to this week's edition of Down the Right Field Line. As always, if you want to rewind or fast forward at any point in the show to the topics that you want to hear, you can click on these links to my right and it'll take you right to them. In the past couple of weeks, we've been covering the Marlins, each position, and explaining what we project for each position. We covered the infield, we did each position in the infield, then we did the outfield, we did the bench, and who we think is going to make the bench. Now we're going to be talking about the Marlins rotation. This is going to be a very different Marlins rotation than the years past. We have a lot of money invested in this rotation, and there's a lot of question marks in the rotation, but at the same time there's a lot of hope for the future. So let's start off with our ace, Josh Johnson. He's the whole key to this rotation, and I'm sure Rafi will agree with me. He'll give his 2 cents here in a bit, but Josh Johnson is the whole rotation. If anything happens with him, things are going to start falling apart throughout the season. And you saw last year when he wasn't in the rotation, the Marlins struggled. And that's when they went down. They had that terrible June swoon. But if you look at his ERA, I mean, the guy has a 1.64 ERA last year, and he only started 9 games. His WHIP was ridiculous. The WHIP is walks plus hits per innings pitched. His WHIP was .978. That means he was allowing less than a runner per inning. And we saw a lot of that just last year when he kept going into throwing no-hitter. I mean, he was getting close to throwing a no-hitter like 3 or 4 times. So Raf, like I said, he's the key to the rotation. But, how can we keep him healthy, and what do you expect from 2012?
Well, like you said, the key for JJ is health, and as far as trying to keep him healthy, that's just I guess you monitor the guy. You do the best that you can. I mean, you really can't avoid it other than through conditioning and things like that. And again, if he's healthy, I can see 30 plus starts, maybe in that 32, 33 start range, and the WHIP. Just like you mentioned, I can see a little over a runner on base each inning. And if our offense is clicking like we've mentioned in past weeks, if they do indeed click, you can see wins of 15 to 20 in that range. So I expect big things from JJ.
Well, with JJ, I mean, just a couple of years ago when he was in the top 10 for Cy Young, he had a ridiculous ERA. I think that year he led the league in ERA. And, he wasn't getting enough run support, like you said. I think there was a statistic that said he left the game like 5 times with a lead, and there was a blown save either by Leo Nunez or by the setup department trying to set up to Leo Nunez. And, you really see that this guy can really pull it together and get up to 20 wins, and it wouldn't be a big surprise. So our number 2 starter, at least that's the way Rafi and I see it, is going to be Mark Buehrle. And this is an established guy pitching over at 200 innings consistently. Now, the thing with Buehrle is, he pitches to contact, and because of that, he usually does have a high ERA.
Right.
If Mark Buehrle consistently pitches 200 innings, if he does that here with the Marlins, he's going to get a lot more wins. He's going to have a lot better of an offense than he did in Chicago. So with those ground balls and the new defense that we have, I think he can establish some pretty good numbers. What are your thoughts on Mark Buehrle, Rafi?
Yeah, with Mark Buehrle, in earlier part of his career, the White Sox had, I thought, was a pretty decent offense with Frank Thomas, and Paul Konerko was still there, and it showed in the win department, and he was able to get that run support. Then later on in his career, obviously the White Sox just, I guess, didn't have that much star power on the offense to continue going, but the constant remained that he was out there 200 innings a season, like you mentioned, and if that happens down here in Miami, we can see those innings pay off in wins, just like JJ that we just mentioned. Aside from that, the Marlins defense looks to be sure-handed this year, so any ball hit on the ground, it should be able to help Buehrle and not hurt him.
So the guy who we project to be the third starter is a guy that we got way back in 2005, and he's been a guy that we've been trying to develop each season since the 2006 season. And in that first year, in 2006, he really showed his potential. And now he had a few down years, but last year you really saw him come out and throw some incredible games. And at one point he was our ace. So, I expect him to continue doing that. And now that he has a better rotation around him, it's going to be really interesting to see what Anibal Sanchez has to show. So, Rafi, I know that you're really big on this guy. Do you think he can continue his success from the past 2 years into 2012?
I definitely think he can. Last year, we saw that Sanchez relied on that fastball in certain counts where, the fastball would, dictate the fastball situation. And he, in the past, he wouldn't do it, throw a breaking ball outside or something. And, whether it was Edwin or Jack later on, it's like, no. You're going to trust that fastball, and you're going to throw it there. And you're going to throw it by the hitter. And you're going to get the outs. And sure enough, he was successful. Now, in terms of, we go back to the offense and back to run support. He also was bitten by the run support. For some reason, the Marlins didn't give much run support to their ace. But anyway, with that being said, I think that if the Marlins do actually score those runs that were left out to dry last year, we could see that win total come up. This guy is the real deal. This guy, he can get you out of situations. I mean, he's thrown, like we mentioned, the no-hitter, 2 one-hitters. He's got electric stuff, and I'm really excited to see him for 2012.
Okay, our number 4 starter is a guy that just a couple of years ago was our ace, Ricky Nolasco. We're still waiting for this guy to come through, and he has the stuff. That's the thing that, Rafi and I get so frustrated. He has the stuff to be an ace. He can be an ace on any other team. The thing is that, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. He can go from the 15 strikeout game against the Braves a couple years ago to a game where he doesn't even get out of the second inning. So I think Ricky Nolasco has the fastball. He has that nasty curveball. All he needs to do is bring it together. And I think with this rotation where you have key guys that you don't feel like you have the whole team on your back, he can relax a little bit and hopefully carry through and reach some of that potential. What do you think, Raf?
I think you hit it on the head with relaxing. Just like we said that Sanchez needs the intensity to pitch, I think Nolasco needs to just relax on the mound and just have that confidence exude. Like I said, just have fun with it, and if he does that, which remains to be seen, because like you mentioned, one day he throws, like you said, the 15 strikeouts against the Braves, and the next he gets romped by the Rays or the Astros or whatever. Like I have said before, Jekyll and Hyde, you don't know what you're going to get from him. And I think that if he works on that, if he works on the mental aspect, I think everything else will follow. That's how I see it, and let's hope for the best again for this guy. But, if he doesn't get it done in the next few years, I think we wave him goodbye.
So our number 5 starter is Carlos Zambrano. This guy used to be an ace. We faced him in the 2003 National League Championship Series. And he had a couple of really good seasons. He had a no-hitter a couple of years ago. And you see, just like Ricky, you see that stuff in there. But with all the temper tantrums that he's had with not being able to get along with teammates, fighting with people, beating up Gatorade things, you want him to let go of all that stuff so he can just focus on the game. And the thing that I'm concerned about is he's coming to the National League East. He hasn't had a lot of success here. The Braves have hammered him, the Phillies have hammered him, but I mean, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You have a guy like Ozzie, they're best friends, they talk a lot. Maybe you can kind of see him turn the page, hopefully become that lights out pitcher that he used to be, and he has less pressure on him. You're not trying to eliminate a 100-year curse, you're just trying to win now. But you still want to see that fire, but you want to see him be a little bit more consistent. So Rafi, going into 2012, what do you see out of Carlos Zambrano?
Well, like you mentioned, you want to see that intensity, just not that much, I guess. I think, like you also mentioned, the key here is the company that he has. He has Guy Yang as his manager. He's got Mark Buehrle, Heath Bell, Jose Reyes. He's got all these guys that are just feel like happy-go-lucky players. Just want to have fun out there. I can see him being more relaxed on the mound. I can see him like executing his pitches. I heard that his fastball was up to 97 miles an hour during these last few days at spring training. So, if he can get that fastball established at 97, wow, we've struck gold. Like you mentioned, there's no curse to avenge here. There's nothing to, just win, have fun and win and do the best you can. And I think that if you put him in that type of environment, I think he'll go the distance.
So that's the 2012 Marlins rotation, how we see it. That's the projection we have as the order that we think should be for opening day. Again, J.J. Buehrle, Anibal Sanchez, Ricky Nolasco, and Carlos Zambrano. As far as other news that's going on in Major League Baseball, Braun, obviously we spoke about how he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. The announcement came out this past week saying that he won his appeal and he's not going to be suspended for 50 games. This is the first time that since this drug testing process started a couple years ago that somebody was able to win their appeal saying that they didn't use the drugs. But the thing he was arguing the most was how his sample was delivered. What he mentioned was that when that sample was then taken in by him, by the receiver, he didn't send it out through FedEx until 30 or 40 hours later. So he's kind of playing along the lines of saying, well, maybe this guy, knowing the platform and everything that I bring to the table for the Brewers, maybe he's trying to set me up or something. So that's kind of the direction his attorneys took, saying that that wasn't really his sample, that could have been tampered with. So you kind of see this whole conspiracy theory driving this whole case, and he ended up winning because of that. And now he's not going to be suspended for 50 games. Rafi, do you think he's always going to have that cloud over his head that, well, maybe he was guilty and he was just trying to get away with it?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet ruling here. Yeah, he was exonerated. He no longer has to serve that 50-game suspension. But anytime you're going to mention Ryan Braun, you're going to mention steroids. There's still that label next to him. And, I just... If it is the way that you explained it to me just now, that's... Wow. That's a very far-fetched accusation. And, in a world where, yeah, it is capable of that happening, but, it's more to me like a fantasy world where that would happen, where sabotage like that would happen, and I think that cloud is going to loom over his head till the end of his career, maybe even more.
Like I mentioned in previous show, FanFest coming up March 3rd. We're going to be out there, and we want to hear what you have to say. You're going to have me walking around, interviewing people. We want to hear your view on what's been going on in Major League Baseball, what's been going on with the Marlins, huge offseason that we had. We're going to be walking around brand new ballpark. You know, I want to get what you guys think. So I'm going to be walking around. You'll see, if you don't catch me, I mean, the best way I can describe you, I'm probably going to have a Marlins backpack on because I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff to have to carry. But if you see me, just walk up to me and just talk to me. I'll pull out the camera. We'll conduct a small little interview. And then that's going to be our episode for the following week. You know, we'll post it up on YouTube. That way you can get a sense what all kinds of different fans are thinking. I'll see you guys at FanFest March 3rd. So our question of the week is going to be, do you agree with what happened with the Ryan Braun appeal? And do you think he's really guilty? Tweet us, write us on Facebook, or just comment here on YouTube. That's it for this week. Next week we're going to be covering FanFest, and like I mentioned, look me up at one of you guys are walking around the new ballpark. That's it for now, but make sure to check out our random video of the week, which we like to call
the Mega Breakout. Later.